and people were trying to swarm in. And it was almost as if they did not have enough Capitol police officers to deal with anything. It's almost remarkable in one sense that we've only heard of just sort of a handful of instances of gunshots and maybe one or two injuries from protesters. I'm surprised it's not actually more, quite frankly. So they really have a tall order ahead of them trying to secure this whole facility and also make sure that it's protected so that the members of Congress, the more than 500 members of Congress, can go back to doing their work in both chambers. And then also, we're not even talking about the inauguration. That's going to be another gargantuan task to secure and protect, because everything you're seeing everywhere in the west front of the Capitol facing the Washington Monument, where you're seeing these protesters fan out and they're not even being pushed back from some of these places. That's still the grounds of the Capitol. That's where the members of Congress might even be sitting when Joe Biden takes the oath of office. So they have to really figure out how to not just secure the Capitol, but expand that perimeter and get it in a position where they can actually continue preparing for the inauguration, which is only happening in a couple weeks.
Ben, you spend most of your days up there on Capitol Hill. You deal with these hundreds, thousands of staffers, most of them young, in the Capitol. As you spoke with everyone today, how would you describe what they were feeling, what their state of mind was as this was all unfolding?
It's a real mix of fear and apprehension and disappointment. Throughout our broadcast, we keep saying, Joe Biden said the siege of the Capitol, and it's almost unbelievable to hear that the seat of American democracy in this country, which is respected and admired from all around the world. People come here from all around the country and the world to work to try to make this country better. To see it, vandalized and broken into and desecrated, it's not something that anybody who ever comes to work here every day, would really expect to happen in this country and really anywhere. And it's just such a magical place where again, people have their differences and they have their disagreements, but there is still comedy. There is still a sense that we're all in this together. We're all trying to make the country better when you talk to Republicans and Democrats, and for that matter, reporters up there who want people to understand what's happening in their government and how the Congress functions. And you always see something new in the Congress. You always see a new detail, a new statue, a new historical figure. You can get lost in the building just soaking in the history and everything that's happened there. And the fact that we're seeing something now that's never played out in American history, I think people from college graduates to the grizzled veterans and people who have been up on the Hill for decades are it's disappointing, really, and just sadness across the spectrum.
Thank you, Ben. Mary Alice Parks, let me bring you in on this as well. As Ben was talking, I was thinking back to my early days on Capitol Hill. That's what was always so special about the Capitol. It truly is the people's house.
Yes,
people walk through
it
all
is.
day long. Members of Congress speak with their constituents all day long. Staffers going back and forth. All of that put to a stop today. I know you've been speaking with many of them as well. What are you hearing?
Yeah, and they're doing the people's business, but they're humans themselves. I mean, the texts that I've had today have been from young staffers who are hiding in closets, texts that we normally get during mass shootings. I've had texts from staffers who are trying to make sure that their bosses are okay. Bosses, members of Congress who are huddled in other members' offices trying to shelter in place. I was texting with one colleague at one point today who didn't want to tell me where they were or speak loudly on the phone because they were worried they might be heard by some of these, we're not even sure what to call them anymore, these anarchist protesters, terrorists in the hallway. They didn't want to speak too loudly because they were nervous about whether they would be revealing their location. I mean, just the amount of fear and anxiety on a human level that I think we shouldn't lose today. But, I just also want to take a moment. I was really rattled when Jonathan Greenblatt, who you had on just a little bit ago, he kept referring to the Civil War, and he was not using that imagery lightly. I was thinking about the fact that just 2 weeks ago, we had President Trump veto a very popular bipartisan spending bill, partly on grounds that he didn't want military bases to be renamed for Confederate names to be overturned. And we had this morning Mike Pence referring back to a time in our history right after the Civil War when the country was trying to piece itself together and had to reinvent these rules around the Electoral College. You just have this feeling today that we are seeing images that harken back to a time of civil war that I never thought in my life seeing or having to even have a conversation about again.
On that point, one of the most striking images of the day, I don't know if we have it, Mark, but that image of one of the protesters walking through Statuary Hall in the Capitol, a Confederate flag over his shoulder in the Capitol of the United States. Mary Alice, thank you. I want to bring in Congressman Ken Buck, Republican of Colorado, also former law enforcement officer. I know you were on the floor as this all unfolded. Congressman, I'm glad you're safe. Tell us what you saw.
Hello?
Hi, Congressman.
Yes.
Hi, I just want to thank you for joining us. I was saying I'm glad you're safe. Tell us what you saw as this all unfolded on the House floor earlier this afternoon.
Well, I was